at a young age, I had clinical rotations in a teaching hospital. I said that I can't be on the healthcare delivery side.
Okay.
Right. I don't have the stomach for this.
Got you.
This clearly is not a strength. And my mother concurred. Right?
Yeah.
Interestingly, I asked one of my high school teachers, I said, what is it can I do while everybody else is doing the clinical
the
rotation?
queasy stuff.
The queasy stuff, right?
I got you.
She said, you can put the numbers in the computer. And there it began.
So healthcare, and then that's data. That's it.
That's it. That was the light bulb. I was like, For me, applying data quality and data techniques in a domain that is very salient to Black and brown people is very important to me.
Yeah. Welcome to the Technical Creative. This is your host, Dr. Nehemiah Mabry. This is a show also produced by STEMedia for technical and creative career development and growth. My guest today, I'm excited to have with me, Dr. Fay Cobb Payton. Now listen, if you want to know the difference between the corporate game and the academic game, or if you want to hear about how you should approach some sticky situations in AI, healthcare, and equity, or if you want to find out what she and James Brown have in common, you got to stay tuned today on the Technical Creative. Dr. Fay Cobb Payton. How you doing? Can I give you a fist bump?
Yes, absolutely.
How you doing? You look great.
I'm trying, man.
You look good. The denim, the purple, everything. It's popping.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. Well, listen, I am... I'm so grateful for you to be here. I'll go ahead and say this before I even say my first question.
Yeah.
You were one of the first people to ever sponsor a STEMedia event.
Oh, was I?
Yes. Right now we're in 2024. 10 years ago, 2014, we had our very first STEM poetry slam.
Okay, I remember.
Yes, and you were behind an initiative called My Health Impact.
That's right.
And we were trying to get sponsors for like door prizes and stuff. And you volunteered to come and sponsor. You came to the library. You was like, what are you doing? It's a brand new idea. And I can't thank you enough. I want to thank you on the platform right now.
Oh, absolutely.
For being one of the first people to just believe in this creative / technical endeavor called STEMedia. And here we are still going.
Well, you know, I must say the students at the time that worked on My Health Impact, I never wanted to strip their creative, quote, air quote, side.
Yes.
I mean, we had musicians.
Yes, you did.
We had singers. We had photographers. And you combine that and put that good work together, and it's amazing that what can happen.
Yeah, awesome. And shout out to people. I mean, I remember Vic was a part.
Oh,
I think was Clea Braswell who's doing great things. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to y'all out there. We see Danae boy. Oh, well, not for now. They recently.
Robinson.
We are going into like, oh man, Mary Lane right now. Kamar. Yep.
And Jeremy, I think, who could play every instrument in any band, you know. It was a lot of people that came through.
Those are superstars to this day. And obviously you were a great leader to be able to harness so much talent and those great things you've done. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. All right.
Okay.
I want to first ask you, and just set the stage like this. You have worked in corporate America, in industry. You've worked in higher ed at both professor level and leadership level later on. You've worked in the public sector, government, right? You've even done nonprofit work. And so I guess my first question I wanted to ask you was, in which one of those sectors can I find a job where I don't have to worry about people getting on my nerves?
None.
You need to tell me it's inevitable.
It's inescapable.
Oh, man.
It's absolutely inescapable.
Joe, people going to get on my nerves everywhere I go.
Everywhere you go.
Oh, my
get
goodness.
on your nerves. It's inescapable.
Yeah.
I think what's different about each of those environments are the ways for which you play the game.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Break that down.
Break that down.
Yeah.
So certainly in higher education and the route, because I, was full professor. Right?
Yep, you are.
The route to ascending to that level is a very different kind of chess strategy that you would use versus if you're in a corporate environment. So in higher education, everybody knows one another, depending on what kind of track you're on, because there are different tracks these days.
Tenure track, non-tenure teaching.
Right, yeah. So I was tenure track, right?
Yeah,
and so I'm like, I'm going for it.
Right.
So it's a club. People may not want to hear that, but it is.
I got you.
Right?
Yeah.
And who gets inside the club and how you get inside the club is very different than if you were in corporate, where some of the things that go on in corporate, some of the things that go on in higher education in terms of the struggle for resources are very different.
Okay.
In higher education, it's like you're fighting for a finite group of resources.
Yeah.
In higher education, in corporate and industry, it's a very different sort of game in terms of relational. Not that higher education isn't.
Right. But it's different.
It's different, right? And having your sponsors and allies are very needed on both sides, but they are done in different ways.
Okay.
Higher education is the full landscape. Anybody across the globe can say, hey, I'm going to evaluate Dr. Nee for this role as full professor, And so those things begin to be very different. In government, public sector, as you mentioned, my goodness. Oh my goodness!
I'm sure there are layers upon layers upon layers.
Layers, right? Layers upon layers upon layers, right?
Yeah.
And so I find that there's no environment that you can go where you'll be left alone and
without the people
without some agitation.
Yeah. And so you got to figure out, I guess, the game you're playing,
right?
And then learn how to navigate.
That's right.
And that's just real, like you said.
That's real.
It is real.
Yeah, and people don't want to admit that and they say, "Oh no, it's the game and it's based on meritocracy." No, it's not.
We wish it was.
It was.
That's idealistic to say it's all merit.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah. I got you. So tell me this then. What game, at least originally, was young Fay playing when she was at Clark Atlanta University?
Oh, my God.
The HBCU in Atlanta, Georgia.
In the ATL.
Yeah. What was your mindset when you first embarked upon higher ed yourself?
Yeah. So as a student, my mindset was, look, I can't go back to where I came from. I got to level up.
I got you.
I have to do financially better than where I have to set a platform.
Yeah.
Mine was about generational, right?
Okay.
Mine was about ascending to a level that would make two teen parents very proud. Two teen parents who instilled everything that they had into me and not disappointing them while also satisfying what my needs and my goals and my objectives were. That was it. And it may seem complicated, but it's not. My whole objective was to come out and be an engineer.
Okay.
That was, I knew coming out of high school, that's what I wanted to study. I wanted to be an engineer.
What made you pick engineering?
Good question, right? So I did this internship at a national lab when I was in high school and had an opportunity to work around engineers. But it was something that my father actually said in a car ride home one day. And I remember he said, do you know what the people in the next car, do you know what they do? And I said, no, actually, I don't. And he said, oh, they're engineers, but that's very hard. Now, whether he was projecting that that's hard as a motivator for me or that's hard is something you might want to shy away from, I don't know. But what I knew was that he said that was something, so for me, that was a challenge.
Right.
And somehow my father and I always had these sort of math games we would play, part math, part psychology. That's what I'd say, right?
Okay.
And so I said, okay, I'm going to step up, and that's what I want to do. I want to be an engineer. I had teachers that told me that I was good in math, math was my first love, honestly.
Right.
After another, another creative side of me.
Right.
But, and then I had teachers that really pushed me and a mother that really believed in anything that I said I wanted to do. And so with that, you put it all in a basket and you come up and you say, okay, what is it that I want to do?
Right.
I want to be a problem solver. Be a problem solver, that's what engineers do, right? So that's what.
And you majored in what?
Industrial and systems, right?
Industrial and systems at Clark Atlanta. They had that program there?
Georgia Tech. It was a dual degree engineering program with the Atlanta University Center and Georgia Tech. But it wasn't just Georgia Tech where you would do your rotation into the engineering specific curriculum. You could have done MIT, RIT, I think Auburn. There was a couple of other, North Carolina A&T.
Right.
I chose Georgia Tech, right? I'm from Georgia. And at the time, in-state tuition, I had to think economics.
Yeah.
Always thinking economics. And so for me, that's what I decided to do.
And you got 2 degrees. So Clark Atlanta,
and
Georgia Tech.
Right.
Got it.
And what people don't know, so most dual degree engineering students did chemistry, physics, computer science. They did a bench science, right?
Yeah.
And I decided that I was going to do accounting.
So you did accounting and engineering?
I did.
In the dual degree program?
I did.
That don't even seem like it go. But
it was hard.
You were thinking
it was hard. I just, again, my father said that was hard, right? So,
yeah. Like, he wasn't lying.
He wasn't lying,
but
right?
It was a challenge for you.
So I'm probably, if you look at my undergraduate transcripts, I'm probably 2 courses away from a math major.
Oh, okay.
Right? But I specifically chose accounting because I wanted to have some business acumen.
There you go.
Right?
Yep.
I want to be able to count my coins and check the checker. Right? And so for engineers are very great technical skills.
Yep.
But if you don't understand business acumen, you have to either pay someone or trust someone to make that happen.
And trust that they're telling you what's right.
Exactly.
And that shows up, and I'm going to jump ahead here. We're going to talk a little bit about your transition from, sort of academia to entrepreneurship, but that shows up in your credentials right now because you have a PhD and an MBA. Mm-hmm. So you got the doctor of philosophy, the technical knowledge, then the business acumen, like you said. Right. How did you get from there? After you graduated from Georgia Tech, obviously you did grad school. What happens next?
So I worked before I went to
So you went straight into industry. That's when you started in corporate. Okay.
I went into industry because I had been interning or co-oping along the way.
Okay.
And afterwards, I went into industry full time.
Okay.
And that was my first eye opener.
Okay. But as far as the money is concerned, because you said you wanted to make a difference, that was your original thought. Yeah. Was that first check kind of like how you feel when you first got that check coming out?
The first check, I was like, this feels pretty good.
It feels good. All right. Let's keep this going.
Let's keep this going. This feels pretty good. Right? Okay. But I was, for me, it felt pretty good. I was always, I can't say comfortable, but getting educated was not a struggle for me because I had scholarships. Mm-hmm. Any delta that I had, so I had internships and co-ops to make up the difference, right?
Yeah.
But what I can say is, most of my friends that joined, I was at IBM, that joined IBM at the time when I really look at, most people went out, they got their BMWs. Yeah. They
start buying the toys that they always wanted.
They bought the toys. Yeah, I wasn't one of them.
You weren't? Okay,
absolutely not.
Is that because you were focused on getting somewhere else, or
I wasn't comfortable?
Okay,
I wasn't comfortable. I don't get comfortable very easily.
You wanted more.
I wanted more.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and so for me, the nice clothes. Not that I didn't have nice clothes, right. But where we shop, you could tell people that were first generation money. Yeah, right. And so even if they weren't. There were a lot of toys being bought, a lot of trips being taken. And I was like, that's great. Right. That's great. But I also was very cognizant of the corporate game.
Right. You knew you didn't arrive. You knew you couldn't rest on your laurels. What was sort of the eye-opening thing? Because I'm assuming it had something to do with just being who you are in that space.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the first thing I noticed is that leadership would have these ideas of where they wanted talent to be and how they wanted talent to grow. Okay. That was incongruent with what I wanted to do.
So you're saying as soon as you came in the door, they already knew where they wanted you to go.
Absolutely, because and part of it, Dr. Nee, was the fact that I had worked there at IBM, all of my internships, most of my co-ops, even part-time while I was in school.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I had a group of people that were very supportive along the way. And then once I finished this thing called undergraduate education, they're like, oh, we know exactly where we want to put you.
We've groomed you for this.
We've groomed you for this. You're going to follow in my footsteps.
Yeah.
No.
You weren't having it.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where the rubber kind of got.
And you started making your departure. So you went back to school after that?
I left. And my father said, you're leaving that good job.
I know. He probably was like, what?
Oh, he was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? And to him, I said, don't worry. Yeah. It's not like I'm going to come home or ask you to write any checks to me. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I got this. I can hustle.
Yeah. You were confident. You were confident in your own decision.
Yeah.
Your own path.
Yeah.
All right. So real quick, just so I can check it off, where did you get the PhD from? Was it Georgia Tech too?
Case Western.
Case Western. Was that in engineering?
That was in information and decision systems, the data person, the data side of me. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. I'm seeing it now. All right. Yeah. Got you. Yeah. And I'm wondering if at that time when you went back to school, was that when your mindset shifted to the whole tenure track, academia, I'm going to be a professor? Because there's a lot of like grooming in the PhD program too.
Oh boy. Yeah, that was another rough spot.
Okay, all right.
I don't know if when Dad said it was hard, I didn't realize, it was like it was going to be hard at like every layer, but it was, right?
Yeah, okay.
And so when I was in the PhD program, I think that's, for me, there was still an option on the table. Do I go back to corporate?
Yeah.
Or do I go into higher education?
I got you.
Right? The only reason why I did not go back in the industry, because in my PhD program, I actually worked at EY as a consultant.
Okay.
I reported directly to a partner in the healthcare IT practice.
While you're working on your PhD?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that partner really showed me a lot of things in terms of what opportunity was in terms of research outside of higher education, right? Like, you can do research
outside of just like publishing papers, just for publishing papers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I saw this partner, I saw everything I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he was, he was a great person, but he was always tense. He never had time for family. He was always on the road.
Yeah.
He always had a 3 or 4 letter word. He was tight.
Yeah.
And I know the responsibility of being a partner puts a lot of pressure on people. I get that.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I don't know if this is where I want to be.
I don't want to see myself like that.
I want to see myself like that because by that time I got married and I had a baby.
Okay.
Right?
Got you. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, maybe this higher education shift, okay, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Right. And you talk about the grooming. Yeah, that's what Case groomed you for.
Yeah.
Tenure track.
The tenure track, yeah.
It wasn't, listen, the clinical track, teaching track.
Yeah.
I had never heard of that until I got out.
Right.
And probably maybe 5 or 10 years into my time at the university.
Got you. Listen, I already know that, like, have you written a book? I'm sorry if I don't know. Have you written like a autobiography book?
No.
You need to. I already feel like there's one brewing. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's on the record, Joe. The autobiography is coming out. But maybe you can tell us, because I do want to get into your subject matter expertise, as it relates to your story, was there a point, you already mentioned, at IBM, you mentioned about working with a partner. Is there a story you can tell us where your life really could have went a totally different direction had you made a different decision? Is there any particular point that stands out as like sort of a pivotal moment? I know there are several pivotal moments, but any particular pivotal moments, just so you know, we're talking to people who are looking for career development and growth within STEM.
Yeah.
Right? Was there any particular pivotal moment that you could share with us right now?
So probably one of the pivotal moments that comes to mind for me was deciding where to go to earn my PhD.
Okay.
My life would have been, I feel, totally different if I had gone to Harvard University. University.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's about brand.
Right? It is, yes, sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's about brand. But I didn't attend Harvard. And I didn't attend because I believe that the PhD program is about relationships.
Okay.
So by the time you get to that level, everybody knows the coursework is going to be heavy. Mm-hmm. You were accepted into the program because you have a certain degree of acumen to complete the work.
Right.
What is not on the application and what is not determined is how well do you fit into the network inside of your department and then inside of your discipline, right? And who your advisor is in his or her networks matters in terms of what kind of trajectory you will have at least your first 5 years out.
Yes.
That's just my experience.
Yes. No, I agree with that, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I had gone to Harvard, right, I would have had a different experience. So the question becomes, why didn't I go to Harvard versus why did I choose Case? Because those were my two.
Right.
I was not going anywhere where I couldn't go and see.
Right.
Right. I just wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to rely on the web.
Okay.
Right.
Case is in
Cleveland.
Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So you got Massachusetts and you have Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
You wanted to go. Okay.
Yeah. So all things being equal, both are very cold climates, right?
Yes, indeed.
But I wanted professors that were going to be there and available to me. Yeah. Because sometimes professors, particularly at graduate level, they're off doing their own thing.
True. Yeah.
I needed that because this was new for me. I was first generation. No one in my family has a PhD.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is new for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to know that I was going to have professors that were going to be there to help me navigate the process.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know the process.
Yeah.
Totally foreign to me.
Right.
Right. And that was important. And so hence I went to case.
Yeah. That's so huge. And I think that's a lesson worth pointing out because like you said, we all think about the research. Mm-hmm. We all know that even to get into a PhD program, you got to have a certain level of acumen.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's a culture within the department.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're going through this process, so much of the leverage is in the hands of your advisor and the people in that department. And I mean, I've heard horror stories of people having to leave schools or not even finish because of that.
That's right.
And so part of your strategy was, I want to go there and get a feel and make sure that there are people who are going to help me finish this thing.
That's right.
And then go on to a successful career.
Yeah. And so for your listening audience, finish in a timely manner.
Yeah.
Because again, for me, economics is always in the back of my mind, right? Mm-hmm. So each year that I'm not finishing in a timely manner, that's earnings that I will never earn, that will never draw interest, that I'm never growing my nest egg. Yeah. So for me, that's how I think about it. Somebody else may think differently, and that's fine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, a little about the background. I think I'm for sure that helps someone. I want to get a little into your current expertise, and I'm going to read something real quick. You know, you're a visionary leader. You're harnessing the transformative power of artificial intelligence, equity, and healthcare IT within tech ecosystems. This is what you have accumulated as this is a skill set even now. Your expertise and your insights have made you a sought-after speaker, consultant, and panelist addressing critical strategic issues around tech inclusion, data use, and systematic change in both corporate and academic settings. If you can, please tell us for a second, why is what you do now, or wait, first of all, how did you acquire sort of this toolbox, this incredible toolbox? And then secondly, why is it important? Why is it important?
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to start out with the healthcare piece. Okay. That has always been important to me. I graduated from a high school that focused solely on healthcare and engineering. That was the whole theme of the high school. Yeah. Right? So, for me, things go back historically. At a young age, I had clinical rotations in a hospital, in a teaching hospital. And I said, I can't be on the healthcare delivery side. Okay. Right? I don't have the stomach for this. I got you. This clearly is not a strength. And my mother concurred, right? Yeah. It's like, and interestingly, I asked one of my high school teachers, I said, what can I do while everybody else is doing the clinical rotation?
Queasy stuff.
The queasy stuff, right?
I got you.
She said, you can put the numbers in the computer. And there it began.
So healthcare, and then that's data. That's
it. That was the light bulb. I was like, ha.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, applying data quality and data techniques in a domain that is very salient to Black and brown people is very important to me. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It always has been, as you know. Right. I knew that I couldn't be a clinical physician. Right. But perhaps I can add to the conversation in healthcare and other domains based on my work that I'm doing in data. Right. So my whole dissertation, everything's about data. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And no one was using the term, at least in my space at the time, artificial intelligence. Yeah. Right? So enter the world 10 years ago. Right? And we're building algorithms, and the algorithms are creating these results, and physicians are using the results to deliver care. Make decisions. Based on data. Based on data and allocating resources or not. Yes. Yep. Or indiscriminately or with bias. Right. That's important to me. And so while, yes, it is a healthcare issue, it's not one that's limited to healthcare. You look at education, right? You have kids, right? Yeah. Kids go to school based on EOC, EOG. They are routed. They are tracked. So these are experiences that impact the lived experience. Yes. That's what's important to me. And that's data-driven. Right. And I see the connection because then that's obviously equity. Yes. Right. Healthcare, data, AI based on that data, and then there's the equity piece. Yes. That all makes a lot of sense. And I think it's incredibly important. And it's funny because you were in this, I mean, it goes all the way back to high school. I didn't even expect you to go back to high school with your story. Yeah, we did. But now I feel like it's even increasingly important as we continue to move forward, which is why, you're a sought-after speaker and expert in this area. And, we're going to get into a few scenario based, and I want to get your thoughts because I know this is a podcast, so this is not the same as like you're going to be able to everything in this podcast. We're going to solve everything, but you brought up some very
interesting scenarios, and I actually have a few here that I would love to know what your thought is. And we call this a segment, Joe. As you know, we do interactive segment, and we call this one. This is a brand new one. Shout out to Stephanie, brand new one. It's called the sticky seats, right? It's like the hot seat, but it's sticky.
Okay,
you got me. In this segment, the sticky seat, I'm gonna share with you scenarios based on in this edition being based on AI and healthcare, right? They're sticky situations, but also I want to just know at least how you would initially think about these situations as we kind of go through the segment. So here's the first one, right? An AI system is designed to diagnose skin diseases, and it has been trained predominantly on data from lighter skinned patients. And so when deployed, it performs significantly worse on patients with darker skin, leading to delayed or even incorrect diagnoses. How would you think about this as it relates to addressing this particular bias in AI tools?
Typically, some form of treatment plan or some care option will be given. The question should then be asked, who will this harm? Not what it will correct. What will go wrong? What will go wrong is all the things you just said, right?
Incorrect diagnoses,
underdiagnoses, maltreatment, delayed treatment, all of those things, right? Now that we know that that's a problem, hopefully we'll know that that's a problem, there has to be some feedback loop.
Right.
Because you're only going to use, I would hope, a portion of your data set to train that algorithm. Then you'd use the full set to actually run and come up with the real picture of truth.
Right.
The last thing I will say is, once you do all of that, no one these days is really asking the question. We're so big data centered. Where's the small data, Dr. Nee?
The small data.
Where's the small data?
And by small data, you mean some of the unique differentiations from person to person?
Absolutely. I mean, particularly small differentiators on, they may be characteristics, it may be defining characteristics, it may be genotype, phenotype, it may be the lived experience, it may be work conditions, it may be health conditions, it may be transportation. We call that, all of those are the social determinants of health. Have you asked those questions?
Small data.
Small data.
Yeah, you're right.
Because that helps you to contextualize the results relative to the patients that are in question. And while I realize a lot of times it's time sensitive.
Right.
Decision makers want to make a decision in a timely manner. Sometimes you have to roll back in order to get that feedback loop. And you should always ask the question, who's not in the room?
That's why you're the expert. That's why she's the expert. You know why? Because I think when I sometimes ask a question, I feel like the answer is in the question, but you took it so much deeper because I think the surface is, well, just test it on darker skinned patients, right? Like just get more data. But you're like, it's not just that. It's not just that. It's who's going to interpret the data.
Right.
Even if you did get darker skinned patients, who's looking at it and determine what's then the next steps, right? And then even, like you said, small data. I like that. Yeah.
And you would hope that from that learning, what can be learned to modify the algorithm, right? To revise the algorithm to account for patients with darker skin.
Right. And that feedback loop, make sure that you're constantly.
That's industrial engineering.
That's that IE.
That industrial and systems engineering.
Let's go. All right, cool. Check it out. So here's another one. All right, another AI related. An advanced AI system has been developed to optimize the allocation of limited resources in a community, throughout a community. Let's say, even if the community is a certain geographical area, right? However, the system inadvertently prioritized areas with higher internet connectivity and tech savvy populations, people who know how to operate, you know, which disadvantages rural and poor areas. How would you think about that when it comes to allocation of resources socioeconomically?
Sure. Wow. Okay. I see this as a community-based approach. I see this as a question of a halo effect. And by that I mean, we assume that the internet is needed by those that already have the resources, right? It's almost like you've received some funding before. So obviously when you submit something, you must be worthy because you received it before.
Yeah.
So it's a halo effect, halo bias, right? We got to step back, right? I think in this case, it is very critical to understand the community at a grassroots level. What is needed, by that community. And sometimes people assume that community can't voice that. They can voice it. It's just how you interpret what they're saying. You almost have to be able to code switch, right?
Right.
Because I know that I can go back home to my hometown in the way someone may say it, or my home city in the way someone may say it.
What city are you from, by the way, Georgia?
Augusta, Georgia. Okay. Home of James Brown.
James Brown. You know, I was born in Georgia, too.
No.
So I was born in Americas. I grew up in Albany, Georgia, South Georgia. But I know Augusta's that South Carolina line.
That's
Georgia.
right. That's right.
All right, cool. Yeah, I digress. Go ahead. Yeah.
So we need to have community voice in this allocation of resources, right?
Yes.
And here you get to broadband access.
Yep.
You get to economic disparities. I think it's particularly where you can see it is in school systems.
Okay.
So learning about those three things would require that those that are creating the algorithm better understand what's happening at the community level.
Yeah.
So that when you get ready to allocate the resources are allocated based on a true need. The question is, how do you define a need? Because the assumption, particularly when it comes to this, is need may be based on, you have access to computing. But access and availability are two different things. I might have availability at my local library.
Right.
But I don't have access in my home.
That's true. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like I see the wiring. You all have fiber optic cables in that part of town.
Right.
But it's like I got to go across town to even get on a computer that can actually.
That's right.
I'm just going to say this because I know this is what happens sometimes. It's like, but that's just too much work, Dr. Fay.
I
got to go grassroots.
Yeah.
Like, can I just look at the map and see who's in there?
No, absolutely not. That's lazy, right?
Lazy.
And so we look at a map.
Yeah.
God bless Dr. Johnson. She created GPS.
Yeah.
But she did not drive people off cliffs, right?
She sure did.
So that doesn't mean that you can't have discernment in terms of having data skills yourself. It does require work. It does.
Right.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But if we are going to posture this as something that is helping community, but disadvantaging others, that's not helping.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. All right, one more. Here we go in our sticky seat. All right.
Sticky seat.
Let's see where I want to go here.
The seat is very sticky.
Is it sticky? Look, you're helping us unstick the seat, though. You definitely helping us. He's helping us unstick the seat. Here it is. Here we go.
Okay.
This is probably more of a service one that we hear a lot, right?
Okay.
You have implementations, say at a hospital, of AI systems that automate several administrative tasks that previously were handled by staff, by human staff, which leads to job cuts and reduce human interaction and patient care. What are your thoughts on how we could, balance the efficiency gained with AI, but at the same time recognize the potential social impact on employment and even quality?
Sure.
Yeah,
that is a sticky situation, and that's a very real scenario these days. Particularly in healthcare, but I know in other domains as well. If you rid yourself of the human, you rid yourself of the opportunity to get that small data.
Oh, right.
That I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So there's the concept of a human into the loop. And right now, AI is potentially giving the answer, right? Or the allocation or the resources that should be deployed. Again, it's an AI algorithmic process. So it's not from 0 to 1. Right. There are other steps in between, right?
It shouldn't just be all AI.
It shouldn't just all be AI.
Yeah.
It should be some combination of computing and human interaction as well.
Yep.
And so the efficiencies that you may gain, you can deploy employees, professionals in other parts of the algorithmic process.
Right.
And I would also suggest, again, that small data is where you don't get that from AI.
Exactly.
You don't get to understand. And I'll give you this example. So I was at a conference a few years ago, and a person sort of said, this is what came out of the algorithm. This is the typical patient, and typical patient looks like this, can't read that, 7th grade education, blah, 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 and happens to be a black woman and does not adhere. And you're sitting there and it's like, well, there are like 3 black women in the audience and this us. And
right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That interpretation of what adherence is or is not should not be a 0 or 1.
Yeah.
That's why you can redeploy the employees to be involved
in the
loop, in the process.
And say, that doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound right.
Right. We need to add some more context to this.
That's right.
Let's I don't know if sprinkle is the right word, but let's also factor in small data.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, that's major. And,
Absolutely.
And I think from a market standpoint, what AI is then obviously going to create is new job roles where, okay, you may not be doing every keystroke, but now you need to be able to look at, and I think this is where STEM in general is really interesting, especially for our young people and our students coming up. It's like the opportunities continue to expand and being able to expose people to other roles that are emerging as a result of AI and the way that AI is deployed. I agree with you on that. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So, for young people, I would really hope, and, I really tried to do this in a classroom context, understanding, having data literacy skills.
Yes.
It's so critical. But with AI now, it's not that you put something in and AI spits something out. It's what questions are you prompting AI, right? It's almost like prompt engineering.
Right?
Yeah. And how you prompt will train the algorithm.
Yeah.
But knowing what to prompt is a skill set in and of itself. What questions to ask, and then how to interpret the data that comes out of that.
That's major. Yeah.
The other thing I will say, especially for, our future STEMers, being flexible and agile in an interdisciplinary way. So if you're civil engineering and I'm industrial engineering and someone else is psychology and someone else may be, political science, because they do just as much AI these days as anyone in political science.
Yeah.
Can you function on a team like that? That's the question that students should be, and teachers should be asking, right? Yeah. You create, I tried to create the mess, simulate the mess.
Yeah.
That way, when you come out, you're better suited to
handle the mess.
To handle the mess.
Yeah. Hey, listen, well, I just want to thank you for handling the scenario mess that we kind of just thought about.
That was sticky.
in our sticky seat segment. And I think undoubtedly, Dr. Fay, you've just, even demonstrated just a small tip of your expertise. Can you go ahead and give us just a quick, I'm going to talk a little bit again about your transition from an entrepreneur standpoint, but give us a quick spill of your business and things you offer now if people were looking to bring you in, because obviously you got the chops.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of work around the STEM ecosystem, right? The STEM ecosystem, and doing things like leadership development around the STEM ecosystem, workshopping. I've done a lot of keynoting these days, which it's been interesting to sort of go through that process.
Okay.
But the idea around also strategic planning,
right,
and really thinking about where STEM is going, where is the ecosystem going, and a lot of that planning and such. And so those are the types of things that I've been doing these days. And I guess I've been blessed. I know that I've been blessed to be able to do that at this point in my career. Yeah. And so that's what I'm doing. Still writing. The interesting thing is I am still writing. You planted a seed about
the autobiography.
Book, right?
Hey, it's coming.
I know. That's just,
I know. In due time. But you're still writing, publishing, and expressing yourself on various platforms, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, so say for instance, I had a STEM program and I want to introduce my students to AI and data quality and things like that. You would be someone that can be hired to come in and consult and help kind of not only help construct the curriculum, but also give the leaders sort of things to be mindful of as it relates to developing these young minds.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I've been doing that type of work, particularly young minds. We want them to know what's going on now, but we also want them to get a sense of what the future looks like.
Yep.
I mean, we don't know what it is, but we can see that it certainly won't be where we were sitting even 6 months ago.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
Even 6 months ago. Things are rapidly changing.
Indeed.
And I've been doing a lot of work with HBCUs as well, being a product of one.
Right.
A very proud product of one, and understanding how strategic partnerships can work in the STEM ecosystem. So I've been doing a lot of work like that. But Got you. So bridge that gap for me really quick between, again, you had experience in industry, higher ed, but then also you did some government, nonprofit work. How did you kind of move from there to, I'm about to do this thing solo dolo, as they say? Yeah. That's such a complicated question.
I know. It's loaded. It's loaded.
That's a book question. That's a sticky seat question.
Okay.
Okay, so it's like this, right? This is what I will say.
Okay.
When you have gotten to a point, and I had gotten to a point in my career where you make a real national and international impact.
Yes.
And you, when it's time for your duty trail it's time for that assignment to end. Mm-hmm. So the options are, do you go back to what you were doing before? Mm-hmm. Or do you do something different? The expectation that one would go back and do the same thing that you were doing 4 years prior just did not resonate with me.
Okay.
It's like, now, really? Are those the options that are on the table? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Those are not options for me.
Yeah.
So I'm okay.
You're okay.
I'm okay.
I love it. And you like you said, national, international impact, and the fact that, we have access to you. You come on the show. This has been great. Oh. I want to get some, as if we haven't already, right? Like, I want to get a few more nuggets from you, though.
Okay.
If you were to say, if somebody said, man, Dr. Fay, man, you've done so many great things in all these different spaces. I admire the work you're doing in, in IT and healthcare and equity. What would you say are like 3 career skills as you look back on what you've been able to accomplish that you would recommend for somebody who's sort of following in your footsteps? Oh,
I always tell young people, and you can ask the former My Health Impact people, I always said, I know that I'm not going to be in this spot. Mm-hmm. X number of years from now, I promise you that I won't, right? You could probably go to campus and you turn down the hall and the same person's going to be on the end of the hall with the same books on the shelf. I knew that weren't going to be me.
That wasn't going to be you.
That was not going to be me, right? And so when you know that that's not going to be yourself, the nuggets that I would give was be prepared to be what you don't see. Because so many students would say, where are the rest of the black and brown professors? I was like,
you got to be able to operate.
You got to be able to operate.
Not see it in front of you.
Yeah. And it might be difficult.
Right.
But you have a wealth of people that can help you.
Okay.
2, we didn't talk about this, but family is really important to me.
Oh, okay.
Family all this other stuff has happened. What has been the rock that does not change has been my family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's so important. And 3, I would say, it's not about, are you the smartest person? Can you get the answers the quickest? You can code this up or design this up. It's about relationships. And so relationships will carry you much further, as they did me. I am still friends with some of my undergrad professors.
Wow.
Literally. Yeah. That wrote me letters to get into the PhD program. We see each other at conferences, and we still keep in touch with each other.
Like, I'm so proud of you, Dr. Fay Cobb Payton.
It's relational.
It's relational, yeah.
It's relational, right?
Yeah.
Everything is relational.
I love it.
And those are the 3 that I would say,
Be prepared to be what you do not see. So, just be prepared. You're going to go into some rooms, some spaces. Yeah. You're not going to see any blueprints. Like, you're going to basically be that blueprint, right? Right. Family, extremely important, and then it's about relationships.
Yes,
maintain those nurturing, valuable relationships.
Yeah.
That's major.
And for your creatives like yourself, like I told you, don't let that go.
Don't let it go.
You should foster that, right? Okay. You foster what gives you energy and what brings you joy.
Yeah.
Don't let that go. Please don't let that go. And so those are the things. And there's a very spiritual side to me, a whole nother side. But those are the things that are important, I think, that people should know.
that. And I think that's what, if I may say, just allowed our paths to cross 10 years ago or plus, right?
Right, plus.
When you were supporting a lot of things. And again, like so much of what I've been able to accomplish, I feel is in that same spirit in which you've been able to accomplish what you've accomplished. So I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Absolutely, thank you.
My pleasure.
So we do have 2 final questions that are a little different.
Okay.
And these are questions that you're going to answer directly to the camera here.
Directly
to this one right here. This one right here, right?
Okay.
You're going to give advice, if you were to go back and give advice to that young, early career version of Dr. Fay. What would you say to your past self? Familiar question. But here's the other one. What would you say to your future self? Let's say the one after you write the book. Right? What are you going to say to that past self and that future self? And I think this would not only be helpful for that future self, but whoever else is watching.
That's really good. Yeah. Okay, so to my past self, what I would say is, Fay, don't take yourself so seriously. Loosen up. Have fun. Recognize that life is short. Yes, you can work hard, but don't take yourself so seriously. To my future self, I'd say the best is yet to come. That's it. The best is yet to come.
I love that. I love that because listen, no matter what you've already done, guess what? Better is coming. Greater is coming. Hey, yeah. I love it. I love it. Dr. Fay, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on Technical Creative by STEMedia.
All right.
I really am thankful.
I appreciate you. My pleasure.